you also had access to, someone like Elon Musk that is leading that frontier of multiple companies that are working on one of the most innovative AI technologies. Is that something that was a spawn of you being more interested in AI, like that you had actually close access to information that maybe a lot of people didn't have, or were you already kind of interested in it and that's what made Elon Musk reach out?
Yeah.
Because I'm really curious to dig into that story. And the second. Yeah.
So AI, that example, and this I would say is an important thing for like any like aspiring nonfiction writers to think about is like, I had no connections when I wrote about AI. I had every connection that anyone else has. This was pretty early. I didn't know anyone. And
what year was your first, sorry to interrupt. What year did you start writing about AI?
Way before way before I started like mid 2013, and I wrote about AI. Like I started getting into it at the end of 2014, early 2015. So it's like a year and a half in. And I just read books that I kept hearing about, and I read a ton of articles and listened to a bunch of podcasts and just kind of got the landscape. And so much of what I was writing about there wasn't here's like what's going to happen. Here's here's what the experts are saying. That's what that post was. And they disagree with each other. So I tried to give like a landscape of like, here's the range of what they're saying and here's what they're talking about. That's all that post was. And it's actually like, it's an important thing to remember is like, you don't need expertise or connections to write like the definitive primer on something. You really don't. You just, you have to be curious enough to curiosity powers. Cause it wasn't just, finally I got through the 3 AI books. Now I'm done. No, it was like, oh God, I just wanted to read one and skim one. I ended up reading the whole thing, a second, a third, because my curiosity was driving that. Then I went and read a bunch of articles online because I couldn't get enough of it. And there were like, journal articles and things that were kind of written more boringly that I didn't read because my curiosity didn't want to go there. So, and then I listened to podcasts and I just started, the more I learned, the more I understood it. And that's this exhilarating thing. When you start to understand something, it becomes addictive to keep learning, because now every article you read, you actually get it. It actually makes sense. You actually can put it, somewhere. It's like a tree trunk. I think, you've built a foundation, you've built a trunk, and now every article is like a leaf that you can tack on, or a branch you can tack on to the tree. If you don't have the tree trunk and you learn something, it's actually kind of boring. You're forcing yourself through it. You're thinking, good, I learned something, but you didn't really. You're going to forget about it. You're going to forget it, the next day, or you're not going to fully. It's not going to. It didn't fully click, so it didn't help you understand anything better. So I started to get my tree trunk, and I went from there. So that's actually, in this case, that's how Elon found me, because he's obsessed with AI. He's very scared of it. It's like one of the things that is one of the main drivers of what he does is a fear of a future world where AI is way smarter than people, and that we're like house cats. He talks about, and we can't take it back. Like the other animals of the world invented humans. Now that we're here, they can't take us back, right? Like we are smarter than them. We can put them in a cage, and what are they going to do, right? So, so he's one of many people that are nervous, and then there were other people I found that weren't. But anyway, of course, it was an awesome moment for a random blogger when Elon got in touch. He wanted to talk.
How did he get in touch? Like it was an email? It
was an email from like an assistant of his. Okay. Who said, and again, this scene, it's from the office of Elon Musk subject line that almost didn't open the email. I mean, it's like,
you're like, this is
obviously a spam email. Right? And then it was like, Elon likes your writing and would like to. Well, so first he tweeted out the post, which was very exciting. It was like, oh wow, okay. Hope I said everything right in that post, because that post is now getting a lot of traffic. And then I did part 2 and he tweeted that out too. I was like, okay, this guy, like he came back, he really liked it. He came back for part 2. And so that, that's part of why I opened the email. Cause I was like, maybe it's real. And, right. and it was, and there was this nice woman who got in the phone and said, he'd love to talk about, maybe if you'd ever be interested in writing about some of the things he's working on. And it's obviously I would have had the conversation either way, and it would have been fun. But I actually, this case, I actually already had both SpaceX and Tesla on my big topic list. We're already there because I already found them so compelling. I already, I was kind of already a fan of these companies. So, it wasn't like someone saying, oh, this really, really famous entrepreneur is reaching out and they want you to write about their their kind of manufacturing plants or their distribution empire, things that I'm like, I don't know if I can make that interesting, or even if I can, like, I'm not sure I want to, that's a topic. But here it was like space, revolutionizing the entire car industry, like, and the energy industry, like big, exciting things, as big as AI, so, sure. So then I'm on the phone again. I imagine it's going to be him calling, with some other people on the line, and he's going to say hello, and then he's going to leave, and they're going to talk about, that's what I was imagining. Just him calling. We talked for over an hour about all kinds of stuff, just great conversation. By the beginning, I was nervous. By the end, I forgot this was, someone important. I'm thinking this is kind of just talking, it felt like just like, riffing with a friend. I mean, really, really like normal, down to earth guy.
Wow.
Loves talking about TV shows, loves talking about, just laughs a lot, like really easy to talk to. So we had this great combo. And the plan by the end of it was, he didn't even have a specific plan, or is he going to write something on my company websites, or what should the plan be? And by the end, I was like, no, I want to do this on Wait But Why, where I can do all my drawings, I can do everything the way I want and do it fully long. And like, that'll be super weird if it's like the Tesla website has short blog posts and then there's one that's like a length of a book. Makes no sense. So yeah, that went from there.
And was he trying to convince you to write for the blog? Like, was there some sort of like a transaction to get you to write it? Or was it just more like he knew that you were, you respected his work, and like, I guess, what is the relationship there?
Yeah. No, it was really pure. I mean, he basically was like, look, I think your AI and other things you've written are very thorough and accurate. Accuracy matters so much to him. So I think he could see that I was very intent on like, accuracy doesn't mean I always know. It means that when I don't know, or when something's unclear, when people are, when there's 80% confidence, you just say that. Right. So you're just accurate about what you know, and you try to get facts right as much as you can. And if you're not sure if you did, just say that. Right. So I think he was in a world where a lot of people, he gets very frustrated with misinformation especially about stuff he's doing. And there's a lot of it because it's hard to understand. And he also has, people who don't like what he's doing, and they intentionally mischaracterize it. So I think that, and I think, he and I share a sense of humor. I think he also liked reading the things, and he thinks they're engaging. And so he basically wanted me to take those things in, engaging and accuracy. And it was basically just offering, like, if you want to write about my, and what he made clear was that I would just have a lot of access to him and to other people. And there was still not a cent has been paid. It's always been just like, he's basically, I'll give you access to these worlds. You can dive in, indulge your curiosity, learn everything about it, and write about it, which is awesome for me. And in return, like, I'll write really long, thorough things, which will help people understand what he's trying to do, which is what he wants. So it was a very symbiotic thing. And he doesn't do things like a normal, billionaire entrepreneur titan of industry. Like, you think that these people have like giant teams around them, and everything is very, you come in, you start working, and you sign the NDAs, and you have the press approved people you talk to, and it's very loose, and kind of, and certain things are very loose. And so there was a lot of trust. Basically, I could talk to anyone. I would just be like, oh, I'm going to talk to this person, and the head of structures, and the head of avionics at SpaceX, and they were just offering me, there's the head of satellites. You want to talk? So yes, of course. Some of these people weren't press approved, and some of the info they were giving me was not necessarily stuff they wanted out there. But these people didn't know what they wanted. So the what we ended up doing is just, they told me whatever. I put whatever I thought was interesting in the blog post, and I ran it by them. And, there's all these rules also, not just on their side, but in journalism. I've put something in an interview before that got published, and afterwards I was like, I don't think that's like something I want out there. And they're like, sorry, we can't retract. We can't journalistic, like whatever. I'm like, I'm a blogger. I can go if there's something in there that you don't want out in the world. Now, if he had come back and been like, this is a little critical of Tesla, this is a little bit, I don't want you, poking fun at me. I would have been like so bummed, because then it would have, then I would have had a hard time, because I still have the integrity of my own style and my own, it was clear I was going to make whatever points I wanted to make, I was
sure, yeah.
But the things they took out, like the smallest things, like the bandwidth of their satellite internet, expected bandwidth, like little tiny things like that they were like, we don't want like competition knowing the exact like numbers on something, right? Really small. Right. And so that was that. And then very easy kind of relationship. And wrote a bunch, and then came back, a year later or a couple years later, and wrote about Neuralink as well.
Yeah. And I want to dig into Neuralink for sure. Did you get a chance to go to and have a one-on-one with Elon as well, like in person, and really dig into his story and how he thinks? Yeah,
he's very available for this project. We met in person a couple times. We talked on the phone a bunch of times. It was pretty easy to just say, okay, I would go and do all the research I could, and want to waste his time. I'll do all the research I could, and then I would kind of figure out where the holes still were. But it wasn't just always, because again, I could ask his experts, I could ask his staff for specific. It was much more like, what the big philosophy here? What's the big, and so we just got on these phone calls and kind of get into like, what's the big picture here of humanity, and get into those kind of conversations, which would help me paint the really big story, which is what I wanted to talk to him about, because that's the reason these companies exist, because of the big story in his head.